Hi, welcome to my channel. We're going to be talking about what went down during the 2025 Stanley Cup Finals between the Edmonton Oilers and the Florida Panthers. So, Game 1, Edmonton Oilers won Game 1 of the 2025 Stanley Cup Final against the Panthers on June 4th, 2025. This matchup took place in Rogers Place and ended with a 4-3 overtime win for the Oilers. Oilers started off strong with a goal scored early in the first period. The Panthers answered back and extended their lead with a power play goal during the latter half of the period due to a failed coach's challenge by the Oilers. Panthers momentarily extended their lead by 2 goals. However, the Oilers were able to answer back a minute and 17 seconds later to make it a 3-2 game going into the third period. The Oilers' momentum continued into the last period of regulation and ultimately forced overtime after tying the game 3-3 during the third period. After a delay of game penalty by the Panthers, this opened the opportunity for a successful game-winning power play goal to be scored by Leon Draisaitl, which ultimately helped the Oilers to lead the series 1-0 after their Game 1 win. And now going to Game 2, the Panthers came back with vengeance and won Game 2 in the 2025 Stanley Cup Final against the Oilers on June 6, 2025. This matchup took place at Rogers Place and ended with a Panthers 5-4 win in double overtime. Game 2 was a back-and-forth game, which ultimately ended with the teams going to overtime after the Panthers failed to close out the game during regulation. The impressive saves by Oilers goaltender Stuart Skinner and Florida Panthers goaltender Sergei Bobrovsky kept the first overtime scoreless despite both teams having multiple chances to take Game 2 earlier on. The score remained stagnant until 8 minutes and 5 seconds into double overtime when Brad Marchand secured the Panthers 5-4 win with his second breakaway goal of the night. This Game 2 win helped the Panthers tie the series 1-1 going into Game 3. So, Game 3, Panthers won Game 3 of the 2025 Stanley Cup Final against the Oilers on June 9, 2025. This matchup took place at Amerant Bank Arena and ended with a final score of 6-1 in the Panthers' favor. The Panthers' momentum from their Game 2 win carried on into Game 3, and they were able to end the first period with a 2-0 lead. Although the Oilers were able to cut their goal deficit down to 1 goal after a successful power play early in the second period, the Panthers continued their goal-scoring streak with 4 unanswered goals throughout the remainder of the game. The stellar goaltending performance by Bobrovsky and the solid efforts of the Panthers penalty kill unit greatly benefited them in securing their Game 3 win and their 2-1 series lead. And after the unfortunate losses, the Edmonton Oilers were the ones that came back with vengeance this time, as they won Game 4 of the finals against the Panthers on June 12, 2025. This matchup took place at Amerant Bank Arena and ended with a 5-4 overtime win for the Oilers. Although the Panthers did start off the first period strong with 3 unanswered goals, the Oilers regrouped and were able to tie the game 3-3 by the end of the second period. The Oilers found themselves with their first lead of Game 4 with a goal scored during the latter half of the period. The teams eventually did go into their 4th overtime of this series when the Oilers failed to close out Game 4 during regulation after the Panthers tied the game during the last 20 seconds of the third period. The Oilers were able to tie the series 2-2 with a game-winning overtime goal scored by Leon Draisaitl once again. Now, after another frustrating overtime loss for the Panthers, they totally came back with vengeance this time, and they won Game 5 of the finals against the Oilers on June 14, 2025. This matchup took place at Rogers Place and ended with a final score of 5-2 in the Panthers' favor. Panthers completely dominated the first period with 2 unanswered goals and were able to maintain their 2-0 lead after a scoreless second period. After the Panthers extended their lead 3-0 at the start of the third period, The Oilers were able to answer back and momentarily make it a 3-1 game. The Panthers quickly regained their 3-goal lead, which made the Oilers decide to pull their goaltender, Pickard, in order to have an extra attacker on the ice. This decision initially did work in their favor as they were able to make it a 4-2 game. However, the Panthers were able to capitalize on the still empty net with 2 minutes left in regulation and secured their 5-2 Game 5 win and have a 3-2 series lead. And the Florida Panthers momentum continued on as they won Game 6 in the 2025 Stanley Cup Finals against Edmonton Oilers on June 17, 2025. This matchup took place at Amerant Bank Arena and ended with a final score of 5-1 in the Panthers' favor. The Panthers dominated the majority of Game 6 with 3 unanswered goals going into the last period of regulation. The Oilers' final goal of the 2025 Stanley Cup Finals was scored during the final 5 minutes of regulation with an extra attacker on the ice after pulling their goaltender. The Panthers did end up taking advantage of the empty net like their previous game and then extended their lead 5-1. The Panthers' Game 6 win would not have been possible without the remarkable saves of Sergei Bobrovsky and impressive efforts of Sam Reinhart, who ended up recording a hat-trick by the end of this game after scoring 4 goals. After a hard-fought battle, the Florida Panthers were crowned the Stanley Cup champions for a second year in a row after their exceptional 4-2 series win in 6 games that were played. And in regards to overall stats throughout the whole Stanley Cup Final series between the Panthers and the Oilers, the Panthers outscored the Oilers 28 goals versus 17 goals, despite the Oilers finding more success when it came to puck possession, 210 shots on goal versus 189 shots on goal. The Panthers played with more physicality with 230 hits versus 203 hits, and they also had the advantage when it came to their average face-off win percentage, their power play, and their penalty kill. The overall ability of the Panthers to be able to capitalize on their scoring chances, as well as having a strong power play and penalty kill unit, greatly benefited them in their 2025 Stanley Cup Final win. And this slide basically is going over who the Stanley Cup Finals points leaders were, which for the Panthers, it was Sam Reinhart for points and goals leader, and Carter Verhaeghe for their assist leader. For the Edmonton Oilers, their points and goals leader was Leon Draisaitl, and their points and goals leader and then their assist leader was their captain, Connor McDavid. After the whole majority of the Stanley Cup Final, or Stanley Cup playoffs, Sam Bennett was awarded the Conn Smythe Trophy winner after he led the Panthers with the most goals scored throughout the whole Stanley Cup playoffs, and he ended with 22 points. So after a thrilling matchup between the Florida Panthers and Edmonton Oilers in the 2025 Stanley Cup Final, the Panthers now have a chance at a three-peat going into the upcoming 2025-26 season. All the Panthers' hard work has paid off, and it will be pretty interesting to see who's going to stay and who's going to go, especially with the salary cap coming into play. Although there is a chance of separation, the athletes and staff members of the 2025 Panthers Cup roster will always be bonded after everything they went through during the playoffs. And that's all I have. Feel free to comment down below what you thought about the Stanley Cup Finals, and I'll see y'all next time. Bye!